You might want to go back a sentence. You disappeared
Uh,
into the ether.
and now it's time for us to digest the lowest rung of pop culture so you don't have to. You're tuned in to the all-new CultureCast. I'm Nick,
And I'm Jen.
and we're back with the all-new CultureCast, doing a special episode. But aren't they all special, Jen?
Every episode is special.
Happy New Year, Jen, by the way. It's good to hear you after the New Year's and everything else. So,
Still a little drunk.
which is good because you were just telling me before that you woke up presumably with the flu today. So,
I did.
uh,
I do. I woke up with the flu, so that was real fun. I still have the flu. You have the flu for generally a few days, so I had to email my boss and just be like, can't come into work. But it's for everybody else's safety, not just the fact that I'm exhausted.
you just want a free day off of work. Don't lie.
I went and got my computer, so I'm going to be working from home the next 2 days. So
Okay. Well, today we are going to be talking about. It's become kind of an annual thing around here where Jen, you talk. You're big into the Oscars.
I
I
am
think
big
that's
into the
a fair
Oscars.
assessment. And
Absolutely.
every year you tend to do your, what do you call it, your Oscar death race?
Oscar death race.
And we're going to be doing some predictions because next weekend is the Oscars, and
Mm-hmm.
find out which of Hollywood's going to pat the other person on the back with the awards that they give one another. But I have probably have not seen most of these movies because I have two children, and believe it or
Yeah.
not, it's difficult to leave the house with two children to go see a movie. So,
Would you say your children are keeping you from doing fun things?
no, no. But it just depends on uh, what fun things we're choosing to do. Like some
Mm-hmm.
things are easier than others. For example, if Kiwi and I want to go see a movie, well, we make sure we would probably get someone to watch the kid so we can presumably go. Um, Outside of like a big event film like Avengers or we saw Star Wars, there's nothing that says we have to go see this now because we don't want to be left out.
Mm-hmm.
Like we could wait till it comes on DVD or Blu-ray or hits the red box. So, but in terms of just general fun things, no, I mean, because Kiwi and I, we have a give and take. Like if she wants to go meet up with a friend, I'll watch the kids. We still do a lot of good things at home, but you have to be, selective and be smart about how you're going out and doing the things you like to do. So you have a different worldview when you have a child.
I believe it. I believe it.
So do you, well, I guess before we jump into this, I guess let's do one of our favorites. What have you been watching?
What have you been watching?
Jen, I'll let you go first. What have you been watching
Perfect.
lately?
So, as you guys know, I don't tend to watch a ton of TV, but one of my favorite shows just wrapped up, which is The Good Place after 4 years on NBC. Just had its final episode, and based on both my reaction and the reaction of most of my friends, I would say that everyone was very emotional about it. Um, it was a really good. So the premise of the show is that these people have all died and ended up in quote unquote the good place, a sort of heaven where they are able to hang out. And meanwhile, it turns out one of them is there by accident. And so anyway, so 4 years in, and they finally have they've essentially talked about all the things they could possibly talk about. I would say the last episode, it was one of those where most of the problems hadn't been solved, and it was just kind of about everyone,
Saying goodbye?
saying goodbye, right? In sort of the same way that, the last episode of Friends or something is all about them all, we're going to move to the suburbs, I'm going to move to California, we're going to. I don't actually remember what Rachel. I think Rachel was moving to
She was going to go to
Paris.
France. Yeah, and then decided at the last minute, I'm going to stay with Ross because this has worked out for me so well for 11 years.
I can't even imagine. And then, like, whatever Phoebe did. So anyway, but, you know, in much the same way that I feel like when it comes to last episodes, you know, assuming that they have time to plan and it's not just a surprise cancellation or something, you kind of see, you sometimes see shows where, like, okay, you're forever given to understand that they hung out on the couch during the show and that they're going to just hang out on that couch forever. But then there's also ones where everybody, like, you know, kind of grows and says goodbye and, you know, wanders off to other places unknown, waiting 20 years hoping that, like, Netflix is going to be a thing and that they'll, you know, get their, not only their sweet residual money, but their reunion special one day.
Yes.
Not that I think this show will have a reunion special, but I'm just saying I think you see that a lot. So this was definitely in the camp of, you know, everyone goes their separate ways, and so anyway, it was a very good episode, and I remember I posted about it on Facebook, and then had several people kind of out of the blue, you know, either messaging me or texting me or whatever, and just saying, oh my gosh, you know, I just had so many feelings about this final episode, and it's just, you know, really making me contemplate, you know, the mysteries of the afterlife and all that. And I just thought that was really cool. It was a really, really nice way to end the show.
I never watched the show.
Yeah.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I never got into it, though I know people liked it. I'm actually surprised it lasted as long as it did, because it always struck me as one of those critical darlings that never picked up with audiences. But
it definitely had some devoted fans. But you know, it's interesting. They kind of went in wanting a 4-season show, and then they got to end after 4 seasons, which I feel like between the fact that so few shows kind of go in there, like I feel like you've got a handful of shows that say, okay, we've got our first season planned out and it's going to be great, and then they get the second season and they're like, oh no, we have to plan more things, but we didn't, you know, we spent the last 10 years thinking about how we were going to do this show, but not that we'd get a second season. And then you also have shows where they're like, okay, we have we have 7 seasons planned out, and the TV network is like, you get 2, you know, or whatever. So it's always interesting to see how those different possibilities play out.
Yeah. At least I'm happy for the show's fans that they got what I'm guessing was a satisfying conclusion.
And they also got to weep. Just like picture just weeping, right? Like you're very sad. You're just weeping, and then you're weeping some more, but then you're like happy about it. That's kind of what the ending was.
Gotcha.
Anyway, what have you been watching?
Outside of a ton of Scooby-Doo lately, which my daughter's, we've been trying to. She's been, for the longest time, she's been watching this one thing again and again and again on Netflix, which I don't mind what it is. It's this thing called Little Baby Bum, and it's a series of like nursery rhymes to this like CGI animation, and it's actually not bad.
Little Baby Bum, like B-U-M?
Yeah. Yes. I guess it started out as YouTube videos and became popular, so they released it on Netflix as like a compilation. And it's not terrible, but you know, you can only take so much of it. And I was reading a post online how I belong to this father's, like a dad group on Facebook, which is a miserable experience most of the time, because either they all talking about how they're failures as fathers, or how their baby mamas are screwing them over, or how whatever. But every now and again they have like an interesting post, and they said like, oh, my 1-year-old loves watching this movie and this one. I'm like, you know, my daughter doesn't. She's almost at this time. Well, now she's 2. Like, she doesn't like watch any of that. And like, so I try to like branch out with different things for her to like, you know, get. And one of the things she seemed to take a liking to was Scooby-Doo. And luckily, Netflix has like 600 episodes of Scooby-Doo across the different series. So it's, you know, you could see enough and not have to repeat yourself. But beyond that, speaking of series finales, I the same week I think The Good Place ended, or maybe the week before, I don't know. The TV show Arrow ended, which was a comic book based show which lasted for 8 years and launched like this sprawling media franchise of DC comic related TV series, which it's becoming too much now to like just keep up with if you're a hardcore fan. I guess from what it sounds like, Arrow did something very similar to what The Good Place did, is that the final episode, like the main plot line, everything was all wrapped up. In fact, the main character of Arrow died in the previous episode. Or
wait, the
two
guy
episodes
was
previous.
Arrow, or that was his superhero name?
That was his superhero name, like the Green Arrow, and
Sure.
the actor's name was Stephen Amell, but he had actually died a few episodes previously by saving the universe. You know, how do you top that? So like the last episode was kind of like centered around his funeral and kind of centered on like where all the characters are going to go after this. And I mean, it worked for what it needed to do. It was an atypical finale, because I think a lot of action shows or adventure series, the last episode is like the final resulting plot line of how whatever big battle they've been doing. I compare it to like, say, like if Game of Thrones, like say the second to last episode resolved all the plot lines, and then the last episode was, you know, the last 5 minutes of the real last episode where Jon Snow is going to do this now, and this one's going to do this, and this person's going to be the king, you know, where it just little plot development. It's just where are they now sort of thing. But no, it worked. And after, you know, I was watching the show from day one, so it's kind of weird knowing that the show's not going to be on anymore, because I started watching it when I started my latest professional job. Like when I finished grad school, I moved into like a slightly new career field. That show started the same year that I started the job.
2012.
So yes.
Oh my God, 8 seasons? How much more could they have had to cover?
Well, you know, here's the interesting thing about the 8th season. It was a shortened 8th season, on only a 10-episode run. And each episode was designed to, like the whole season was like actually the finale to the show. It is, you know, I could sit here and go into more detail, but your eyes will gaze over in boredom. So I'll spare you from that, but long story short, it built up to the big crossover between all the hero shows that they have on the CW.
Oh.
And it kind of, within that crossover, it resolved the main plot lines of Arrow, leaving the last episode to sort of just wrap up any loose ends. So, yeah, so that's what I've been kind of watching there.
Oh, well, that's nice. I was going to say, I was thinking I've never watched Arrow, but I do actually remember one time going to visit a friend who was like real into Arrow, and she was like, "Here, you have to watch Arrow," and I was like, "I don't care about this." And then she showed me a scene where Mr. Arrow was like, you know, doing pull-ups on a bar or something for like 3 minutes for no particular reason.
The infamous salmon ladder.
Is that what it was? Yeah, all I know is that he was just kind of like, you know, casually doing pull-ups as you do.
Do you want to jump into the Academy Awards?
Yeah, let's do it.
Before we go in there, I have a question for you. Are you a fan of the Golden Globe Awards, or is that sort of like, I'm above such nonsense?
I think the Golden Globes are interesting. I don't tend to watch the show, just because, you know, I have stuff to do. I generally watch the Oscars and the Emmys. I don't really watch the Grammys. I think the Tonys are very well produced, but I also don't tend to watch them. I think the Grammys are always very interesting in that you have people who literally perform regularly, right? And that's one of the things that makes the Tonys usually pretty great, because these are people who are used to putting on 8 shows a week. So they like go in there and they know what they're doing. Whereas the Grammys, you know, you have all these people who have performed hundreds and hundreds of times, and then they go out there and they're just like, it's just like, it always falls so flat.
Except for Lizzo this year.
I'm sorry. Thor came by and said, except for Lizzo this year. I don't know who let him back in the house. He was supposed to be at Sports Ball. So anyway, but okay, so I didn't watch the Golden Globes this year, but I think the Golden Globes are really interesting as a predictor of the Oscars, you know, and I think they do play into that. I think it's not as if just because it does well at the Golden Globes, it's going to do well at the Oscars. But if you see something that hasn't been getting a lot of buzz and it suddenly does well at the Golden Globes, it does seem like that does predict that maybe it'll do better at the Oscars. But, you know, it's a different voting block. It's a different, you know, set of categories. And, you know, you just can't always know.
So are you a fan of Ricky Gervais's comedy stylings?
Well, that is the other reason I did not watch the Golden Globes this year. I just think, I mean, I don't want to say that you can only be a comedian for a certain number of years, because I don't think that's true. But I think, especially if your whole brand is that you're like the edgy truth teller, I think you gotta kind of like update every so often. And I don't think he's really putting in that sort of work.
You know, the thing is, he'd probably like 100% agree with you on that one, because
Yeah.
Not to use a phrase that's been overused online, but like no shits were given when he was doing his thing. And like on one hand, it's funny that he's like calling out Hollywood on the baloney that it actually is, but like some of the stuff was just vulgar for the sake of being vulgar. Like he had some joke about Jane Judi Dench, who wanted to lick her own self or something. Like it was very strange. Like it was supposed to be a Cats thing, and like, you know, it was a weird pot shot bet. I didn't know where that came from, but what do I know?
I feel like he does not do the work, and I don't feel like we need to keep giving him a platform. Like he's hosted the Golden Globes something like 5 times, I believe, and it's like, I don't know that his comedy has improved. And to be fair, I will say I think that hosting any of these events can be very hard. Because they're trying, you know, the people who are creating these award shows want you to be funny, want you to have a global audience, want you to, you know, also say something that will get you in the papers, and but also like not offend anybody, but also like, you know, and it's just a tough you know, balancing act to pull everything off and to make everybody happy. And you know, I think that is something worth you know, considering. But at the same time, you know, come on, buddy. Practice your jokes for more than 2 minutes, you know. Don't just write down the first thing that comes to mind and then just be like, well, I did a great job. Everything's great now.
All right. Well, let's dip into the actual upcoming Academy Awards. I was thinking about I have a list of areas here, like award categories, and I'm going to rattle them off. Mm-hmm. And the ones you care about, you could say, you know, what your thoughts are on different things, and the ones you don't care about, you could be like, I don't care about that one. Next subject.
Perfect.
Because I'm not sure exactly. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure exactly what is interesting to you versus,
well,
you know.
You know, I think one thing we should do is, you know, I could just talk about some of the movies that are up for things and why I think people should care about them. Might be easier than going through.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I will admit that I am behind on my my Oscar death race this year. I haven't seen as many of the things. Like, it's tough. Like, for instance, I didn't want to see Joker when it came out, and now I'm like, do I go see Joker because it got nominated for 11 things, or do I just go? But I mean, look, I just don't think it's that compelling. I think to me, that's not an interesting movie. But here's one that I think everyone should see. It got nominated for 6 awards, I believe, and that movie is Parasite.
Yeah, I know nothing about this movie other than that it exists.
Okay, well, I'm not going to give any spoilers because I don't want to ruin the experience for anybody. So, anyway, but it's Bong Joon-ho, who is a very famous director from Korea. And I believe his most famous movie was Snowpiercer. And anyway, so according to the film synopsis on the Oscar website, greed, class discrimination, and a mysterious interloper threaten the newly formed symbiotic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan. So this is a movie, you know, everyone is speaking Korean. It is a movie shot in Korea, focusing on Koreans, and, you know, it has subtitles. And Bong Joon-ho made some news when he was at, I believe it was the Golden Globes, and he said that if only Americans could get over this 1-inch barrier at the bottom of the screen, they would really, you know, it would really open up their eyes to a lot of interesting movies out there. And, you know, which is definitely true. And I'll admit, I'm not somebody who sees a ton of foreign films. I mean, to a certain extent, that's because sometimes when you're watching movies, you want to be like, you know, also folding laundry or that kind of thing. But, you know, anyway, the movie itself is really great. Like, I think it's something that everyone should try to see, and you can definitely, It's been playing in a couple theaters. They brought it back for like a limited run because it got so much Oscar buzz.
Mm-hmm.
It's also available, for $15 or whatever off, Amazon and Google Play, and I'm sure, all of those streaming services. So it's definitely something you can see without even leaving your living room. And it is amazing. It's kind of a cross between a horror film and a black comedy. It's really, really well done. There's a lot of like amazing camera angles. It's definitely, sometimes you see movies and you think like, oh, that was a good movie. But this you see and you're like, that was an amazing film. Like it's definitely, very artistically shot, very well thought out. There's a lot of symbolism, angles and architecture and different things that they really use to, really help you understand the two families in this story. So basically what the movie starts out as, you've got a poor family, the Kim family, and their son ends up working for this wealthy family. And then they say, oh, we need as a tutor. So he's basically tutoring the oldest daughter in, I believe in English. But anyway, so he's tutoring her for, some sort of 15-year-old test or whatever test that teenagers take. And then he gets his sister to work for them by claiming that she's an unrelated person who's a art therapist, and he gets his parents working for them. And this rich family is they've made their money in business, and the wife is very high strung, and the father is sort of a jerk. And so you see the relationship between these two families, and it's just it is so good. It is so good. It's very funny, which you don't really see in a lot of like kind of horror movies. This isn't like a traditional horror movie. Like I said, I think of this as a movie about, class conflict and what else? It's really interesting, and I think it is too bad that a lot of people are going to skip right by it because it is in another language. Because I think, what's more American than, rich families and poor families being in conflict with each other. So that one I am definitely recommending for everybody.
Okay.
So what else? Okay.
Can I interject something there?
Sure.
You got me thinking about how people are afraid of subtitled films. Years and years ago, like 2006, 2007, during the summertime, I had a part-time job, and I was a teacher at the time, so I had my summers open, at a Blockbuster Video. Remember those, kids? And this was right around the time when Mel Gibson came out with Apocalypto, I think that was the name of it, which was in a foreign language. It was all subtitled. I can't remember what language it was in. I don't know if it was Spanish or Mayan or, I don't know, some dead language that he liked to do around that time. And we made sure to tell people, just so you know, this is not in English, it's subtitled. And one guy was checking out, and we said, oh, just so you know, this movie is subtitled. He got like so angry, he slammed the thing down, like dropped an F-bomb and stormed off to find another movie to rent. It's like, it's like, I could understand you not wanting to see it or getting kind of disappointed, but like, there's a reaction, and then there's an overreaction, and then there's what this guy did. And it was just kind of like, is that the reaction that he needed to do? But yeah, it's just, average Joe Q moviegoer, they want to just stuff their faces with popcorn and watch, Avengers number 45 and not have to worry about thinking.
I really enjoyed seeing. So this is not going to be this is something that everyone's talking about, but I think Little Women was really excellently done. Compared to, Little Women is the story based on an author, Jo March, and looks back on her three sisters' Massachusetts childhoods and the events and relationships that helped shape them as adults. So anyway, it's gotten 5 nominations for Best Picture, Actress in a Supporting Role, Actress in a Leading Role, Costume Design, and Adapted Screenplay. And it is great because unlike every other version of Little Women, including the book on which it's based.
Didn't they just have like a movie like last year for Little Women that came out? That like started like Leah Thompson and it was supposed to be like a modern take or something like that.
Leah Thompson. Let me see.
Did I hallucinate that? Did I make that up?
I did not see that. If it came out, let's see. Leah Thompson.
Came on. Let's see.
Little Women. Okay, that is pulling something up.
2018. Yeah.
You know what? That's interesting. I did not see it. I cannot speak to it, but I've never thought like, man, I really need a modern retelling of this story. Which is interesting because I feel like there's a lot of other novels out there that I do like. Bring me any version of Pride and Prejudice, I will eat it up, you know. But yeah, I don't know. That may be the only modern day retelling I've heard of that one.
Anyway, it just seems like they make that book into a movie so frequently.
Yeah. Well, this is the first time you have it told in a non-linear storytelling, compared to every other version, you know, where they start out as little girls and move up to, forgive me, Little Women. And so anyways, but this one, you know, has a lot of cuts back and forth, so you can really see different ways in which events shaped them. Now, this is another one, and it is definitely has not gone unnoticed by people that Greta Gerwig was not nominated for directing for this, because it is a very well directed movie. I mean, you could do an entire thesis on just like the use of lighting in this movie, because there is so much going on there, in terms of, you know, the very warm light when they're like young and happy, and like these cold dark light when things are going badly, and just all sorts of really interesting you know, filmmaking choices. Anyway, it is a great version. It's definitely something that I think every parent should take their 8-year-old boy or girl to go see. I feel like anyone younger than that probably wouldn't like get it, but anyone like 8 or older, I think, would really enjoy this. And, you know,
Don't worry, Jen, don't worry. It'll be shown in middle schools from here on out.
Perfect. And look, I grew up, I was 8 years old in 1993 when the version with Winona Ryder came out, so I understand that like everyone kind of imprints on the version they see when they're a kid. But I think you could do worse than to let your kids imprint on this version. I think it's very well done, and there's, you know, again, without spoilers, I think they kind of handle. So in the original novel, you have Jo, who always says she doesn't want to get married, and in fact, her neighbor proposes to her and she turns him down, and then she ends up marrying a man she basically meets when she's in a boarding house, which, by the way, we need to bring boarding houses back. Those just seem very cool. Like, you pay, you know, however many ducats a night, and then you just get your own room, and then you come downstairs, and 7 o'clock there's like a full dinner for you. Like, that just seems very cool. But anyway,
aren't those known as hostels now?
I think based on the hostels I stayed in Europe, the quality has gone down. I think you also got like your own room, and you didn't have to share it with like rude Frenchmen. But anyway, so I really liked it in the original version in the book, and in most of the movie versions, you have her falling in love with this guy she meets in a boarding house, who's, you know, not, I wouldn't say flat, but like we haven't spent the whole novel getting to know him, so it kind of feels like, oh, quick, we got to marry her off to somebody, you know. And they have a really interesting way of handling this in this movie that I was not anticipating, and but I very much appreciated. So, and it has the framing device of Jo publishing this as her novel, because the book on which it's based, Louisa May Alcott's book Little Women, was similarly based in her own childhood experiences. So, you know, when she wrote Little Women, she was obviously not Jo March, but she was also kind of Jo March. So, anyway, it was really interesting. And I hope it does well. I hope one day Greta Gerwig gets nominated for an Oscar. It would just make me happy.
Any particular reason why you think she wasn't nominated, or do you think it was because of her gender, or do you think the competition was so stiff?
Well, okay, let's see. We have, I think, let me pull up the list of nominees so I can compare. I mean, part of the problem is, I think, as with anything, you've got a very stalwart sort of Academy. as much as I find the Oscars really interesting, I will say I definitely understand that it's, in the words of Bong Joon-ho, a local film competition essentially, because they don't want to. They're not searching the globe over there. They are, pushing foreign films that you can have upwards of 5 of them. They are not really looking for the best things. They're looking for, people nominate their friends. And okay, so here's who we have. We have Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 1917 Sam Mendes, Joker Todd Phillips, and The Irishman Martin Scorsese. So, I don't know that I think that's the category is like overwhelmingly, there were just so many great directors this year, and like how could she ever compare to them? I think it's more like, some of these guys. You've got Martin Scorsese. Of course, they're going to nominate Martin Scorsese because he's got a lot of friends, because he's 100 years old. Quentin Tarantino, I think he's got foot pictures of everybody, and that's how he keeps getting in. Also, he keeps saying he's going to retire, and he keeps punking out. So I need someone to hold him accountable.
Well, he says he's going to retire after he makes 10 movies. That's been his thing. So, and it sounds like he has one more movie left to go, and unless he radically changes his tune, it sounds like he's ready to do that. So who knows?
We'll see. I just feel like, so I did not see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I honestly probably would, although I don't know if I'm going to have time before the Oscars. But, the last one I saw of his was The Hateful Eight, and I just, that one was such a downer. And it was, very homophobic, and I just get very tired of a man who seems like he mostly makes movies so that he can use the N-word. That's what it feels like. So, anyway, let's move on. But yeah,
okay.
No, I definitely think part of it is that the Oscars love tradition, and they love people who have been nominated already. And I think part of it is one of the things they do in Little Women is they do talk about how art is framed differently when it's created by women versus when it's created by men. And I think that Little Women tells a very female story, not only in that the characters are women, but in that the way the story is set up is it will resonate more with women than with men. And I think you have a voting base that is overwhelmingly male, overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly older, and I think those kind of versions of storytelling just don't appeal to them. So that is my personal hot take. Okay, as for other interesting movies in the animated feature film, I think one that I was kind of surprised how much I enjoyed, and that anyone with a Netflix subscription can see, is the movie Klaus. So
yeah, we kind of watched that one over here.
Oh, wonderful.
It was on. I did not personally sit down and watch it begin to end, but I've seen bits of it throughout. I mean, it seems good, but I'm surprised it was nominated.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those movies, where the art is just really beautiful. And so the film synopsis, per the Oscars: when a selfish young postman is assigned to a remote Scandinavian town, his unlikely friendship with a reclusive toy maker leads to the creation of Santa Claus. So it's basically this man who, has been assigned to be a postman by his father, and blah, 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 daddy issues and whatever. And he's trying to get this town to basically engage with mail, and they don't like to engage with the mail, and they don't send letters because everyone in the town hates each other. And so he gets these kids to start sending letters so that then he can, get the number of letters up. And in doing so, he basically ropes in this large man named Klaus, who has a workshop full of toys for a variety of reasons that you find out later. And and then they basically create the tradition of Santa Claus. And the animation is beautiful, and the storyline, and I'm not a kid movie kind of person. I'm not, I don't have a bunch of 7-year-olds in my life that I'm watching movies with. But I will say that, I thought it was very well done, and I know they were surprised to be nominated, because one of my favorite traditions that you see now is a lot of times people who have been nominated for Oscars will show video of everyone who was involved in the movie sitting around and like watching the Oscar nominations so that you can see their reaction. And there was a video that was going around of the Klaus people, reacting very, very happily to their nomination. So definitely something you should look out for if you get the opportunity. Even if you never want to see the movie, I think watching those videos of people being excited to be nominated for an Oscar they're just gonna make you happy, So anyway, that is one that I think has not gotten a lot of attention, but it is also, like I said, very easy to find if you're interested. So I've also heard great things about I Lost My Body, but I haven't watched that one yet. But that one is also available on Netflix.
What's it nominated for?
For Best Animated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you've got options out there.
I'm surprised only one Disney film is nominated for Best Animated Feature this year.
Yes. Yeah. No, it is very interesting to see, given that so many things are Disney right now, we're definitely, it is, it's a little terrifying how much Disney owns. And,
we're
now
through the looking glass.
Right. Now that they've bought out Fox and, all of that, like, it's all very bad, and we should be nervous about, the more Disney owns, the less, interesting and innovative filmmaking we're going to have, because they are very much, again, trying to get things that will fit exactly into their box. And they're not going to release things that are interesting or different. And they're just going to keep releasing, remakes of this and that and the other, because they already own them and it's easier. It's very depressing. Anyway, but it's interesting to see this one slight loss for Disney and not having more things nominated. So. Did
you see Toy Story 4?
I actually have not seen Toy Story 4.
Okay. I was wondering if it was as good as some people made it out to be.
I really loved Toy Story 3.
See, I was not as big of a fan of that one.
I loved it. Like, I loved that they were all holding hands and ready to go into fire together. And, like, I don't even remember. I just remember that I saw it and I was like, well, I'm not going to cry. And then I just sobbed. And then I saw it again and I was like, well, this time I'm not going to cry. And then I just sobbed.
There's a YouTube video, and I encourage you to try to find it, where it must have been a Christmas family gathering or something like that, but these two kids, they took a copy of Toy Story 3 and they re-edited it and cut it to where the movie ended, where the toys are on the conveyor belt going to go into like the lava, and made it seem like that's where the end was. So they spliced out the rest of the movie after that and started the credits rolling, and they played it for their mom who hadn't seen the movie yet, and let her believe that was the actual movie for a couple of days until they had a big party, and she was saying how bad Toy Story 3 was, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? The movie was great. It's like, but the bad guy won. And they're like, what are you talking about? And then eventually they show her the real, she's like, you jerks! It's very, very, very funny.
That is amazing. I feel like there's a good number of people that grew up like thinking Old Yeller doesn't involve the dog dying because their parents would just like turn off the VCR. I also think that's interesting in light of, have you ever heard of like, what was it called? Like, it was called like Clean Flicks, and it was, as far as I know, they're out of business now, but for a while they were like this Christian company that would create.
Oh, great.
Like, they would cut out all the sex and swearing. I don't remember if they cut out the violence ? But they would take popular movies and like cut out all of that and then put it out for their, in kind of like a Netflix style DVDs, I believe. And when this first came out, I was like, well, that can't possibly be legal. And then I believe it wasn't, because as far as I know, they don't still exist.
I remember Walmart was doing something like that very briefly. And I don't know if they changed the content of the film, but like if the movie was questionable content, they would change like the cover or something like that. Like, do you remember the movie? Oh, what was it called? Mike and Mimi make like a porno, I think.
Zach and Miri make a porno?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to buy that DVD at Walmart, the title was just Zack and Miri. They took out Make a Porno.
Oh my.
But if you were to get it elsewhere, they had the full proper title in it. And I don't know if they actually edited films, but I know for a while there was a mini controversy that Walmart was doing that. I don't know if they do that anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, so according to not Netflix, oh my god, according to Wikipedia, CleanFlix was founded in Utah in 2000 and rented and sold commercially released DVDs and VHS tapes. They had edited content considered inappropriate for children. They removed sexual content, some references to deity, and violence, either by muting audio or clipping entire portions of the track. A group of major film production studios sued them in 2002, arguing that their service constituted copyright infringement. A 2006 court ruling closed the company. So that is very funny. And apparently there is a documentary about it that came out in 2009. So that is everyone's homework. We all need to watch that and then come back and talk about it, because that is bonkers.
I don't know if that would classify as copyright infringement from my limited understanding, but there's definitely some illegal shady business going on, and they were right to shut that company down.
I mean, can you imagine if I just bought some DVDs and I guess I don't actually know how to do this, but somehow spliced out different parts of it, and then was just well, here's the movie. It's fine, don't worry about it. Although it is interesting given the number of, I know growing up, if you were watching TBS during the day and they had, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and they would do the, they'd change all the dirty words to, potato head or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's legal. Not super.
Because I think, I guess that's because it's part of the production company's contract that TV stations have the ability to edit for content and time, because that's in place. Clearly you can't show an R-rated movie on primetime with blood, guts, and swearing, but if you're just doing this on your own with no pre-existing contract or agreement with the studio, then no. In fact, back in the day, I don't know if they do this anymore, but back in the day they would film alternate takes specifically for television. I know there's in the scene in Ghostbusters when they're in the mayor's office, there's a scene where they make fun of the Environmental Protection Agencies, implying that he has no dick, and they change that completely. The whole scene is rewritten to, instead of referring to the male genitalia, they refer to him as a weasel, and it's not dubbed in. It's an actual scene they filmed, but just for TV purposes, they slice that version in.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they do. I don't know if they do that anymore, but yeah.
It reminds me a lot of this is sort of a deep cut, but if you go back to, the early movies, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, and they would have black actors in the movies, and they would show the film unedited, but then for the southern states, they'd either cut those scenes out or add in a white actor and have them do their part, and and then they'd have kind of these two versions of the same movie, and which is just absolutely fascinating.
I'm sure the South still wonders why they're not doing that.
Oh my god.
Hey-o, go political.
Anyway, but yeah, very, very interesting. So I think we're a little off topic, but I think
a pinch.
I think the important thing, here is everyone should go out and see some movies. But, try to see some movies that are, from some other perspectives, or from directors you haven't heard of before, or, just try to go out there and try different things, because there's so many interesting films out there that people just don't even hear about these days.
Well, let's, if you don't mind, let's do some big ones as we kind of wrap up certain things here. From what you've seen,
okay. Let me give you some of my predictions.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about who I think is going to win all the big awards. So I'll say, I think the important thing to remember when you're filling out your Oscar ballot is you don't vote for who you think is what's the most interesting film or the best film or the film you liked the most, or the film that resonated with you the most. What you do is you think, like, what is the movie that got the like dads left their house for? Because like 60-year-old men don't go see movies. They see like 2 movies a year. So you think, like, what movie would they go see? And the answer to that, I think you'll find, is 1917. I predict 1917. No, I'm not going to say sweeps, but I think it gets Best Picture because first of all, okay, so when we look through Best Picture, we've got Ford v Ferrari, which was the previous Dad movie, and I thought would have some gas, but it seems to be running on fumes. Thank you very much. We have The Irishman, which, you know, Martin Scorsese, but also real long. Jojo Rabbit. No one is going to vote for that. That's not going to win any Oscars. Not to say it's bad, just no one's going to vote for it. Joker, they are not going to vote for Best Picture. Little Women, they're not going to vote for Best Picture. Marriage Story, I don't think so. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Parasite. I think all of those are not going to do as well as 1917. Because again, what movie do dads want to see? It's going to be that one. Okay, next category. Actor in a leading role. We have Antonio Banderas, Leonardo DiCaprio, Adam Driver, Joaquin Phoenix?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix. For some reason, like, looking at his name right now, I was just like, oh my god. All right. So, and then Jonathan Pryce from The Two Popes. And I think we're going to see Joaquin Phoenix. And I don't think it's because Joker is better than other movies. I think it's going to be because in the same way that, like, he's beloved around Hollywood and he's been in a lot of movies and he hasn't won a lot of awards or hasn't won a lot of Oscars, I think he's going to be the one. I think people are going to be like, well, he did a lot of interesting things there, not realizing that he does a lot of those things in a lot of movies, because they just don't want to sit through The Master, you know, they don't want to sit through, you know, a lot of his other films. So that's my guess right now.
Okay.
Actress in a leading role, we have Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson, Saoirse Ronan, Charlize Theron, and Renee Zellweger. And you know, my guess right here, Renee Zellweger. People love a good imitation. She was nominated for Judy, which I saw, and like all biopics, it was a biopic.
I've heard, you know, the interesting thing about that, if I can quickly interject, is that when that movie came out, it came out in like the tail end of a wave of like musical biopics.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to count Julie Garland as a musician, because you had the Queen one from the previous year, you had the Elton John one, and now Judy, and came out with like little fanfare compared to the other two. And when I was reading reviews on it, it did not get the greatest of reviews. So I was very much surprised. And a lot of the reviews, the couple of reviews I read, singled out her performance as being like, what is she doing? So I'm very surprised that she had gotten nominated and also won the Golden Globe. So that'd be interesting to see if your prediction is right on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not necessarily saying that I think it was the best performance of the year, but I think you know, Scarlett Johansson was already nominated. She's nominated in 2 categories, so I think she's out for both of them. Saoirse Ronan is still very young, and she's already this is her 4th nomination, so I think it is unlikely she's going to pick up another one. Charlize Theron, you know, beloved, but Bombshell didn't really, you know, do buco bucks at the box office. Plus, it's about, you know, it's kind of about how the network failed a bunch of employees. So I just don't see that one being the one. I think it's going to be Judy. That's my theory. And then let's see, actor in a supporting role. We've got Anthony Hopkins, Tom Hanks, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, and Brad Pitt. I think part of me wants to say it's going to go to Tom Hanks, but here's my theory, though. I think it's going to go to Brad Pitt, and here's why I think it's going to go to Brad Pitt. First of all, people say he's very good in it. But second of all, and this is important, Brad Pitt's whole thing is that he doesn't want to, you know, he doesn't want to be one of those people that, like, goes out and campaigns for his Oscar, which I totally understand. I don't want to campaign for an Oscar either.
You're so good in everything you do.
Thank you. I usually just pick up my Oscars without campaigning, but after the Golden Globes, in which he won a Golden Globe, and I'm sorry, was it the BAFTAs? Anyway, so there was an award show, maybe it wasn't the Golden Globes, where he and Jennifer Aniston were there, and then afterwards, yes, and there were pictures taken of the two of them looking kind of cozy. And my initial take the next day, and I put this on Facebook, was what a great way to campaign for the Oscars without having to campaign for the Oscars, right? You remind everyone about this relationship that they loved, even though it very clearly ended very badly. I mean, like, he cheated on her. There's no reason why people should find this relationship as compelling as they do. And yet, so many people were so surprised and so excited to see the two of them interacting in a way that maybe, and this is crazy. The two actors could be acting like they might be interested in each other, but I really think that was his attempt to get an Oscar, was him going out there and flirting with Jennifer Aniston, and where the cameras could see him, and I think he's going to be the one. I think it's going to work.
Okay. Has he won a Oscar before?
Let's see. I want to say for like Interview with a Vampire or something. Give me a second. Nope, he's never won an Oscar.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the other reason why I think he's going to win. On top of just him going out there and being popular and everything, I forgot, because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is about Hollywood, and the Oscars love movies about movies.
Especially in a good way, not in like a bad way necessarily.
Not when they're saying like, man, movies are bad, right? No, I think it'll be him. So that's my prediction. Okay, and then actress in a supporting role. We've got Kathy Bates, Laura Dern, Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh from Little Women, and Margot Robbie. So if I had to put my money on this, like, Kathy Bates, beloved, but no one saw Richard Jewell. Scarlett Johansson, already nominated in a different category, and I think it's gonna cancel her out for both categories. Margot Robbie, again, Bombshell didn't do that great. Florence Pugh was great. I would not be mad if she won, but I think it's gonna go to Laura Dern for Marriage Story, and here's why. So Marriage Story is basically the story of Noah Baumbach's divorce from, oh my gosh, who was his wife? Jennifer Grey? Anyway, it's basically his life story, right? It's about him getting a divorce, and then, his wife moves to LA, and they have to get a divorce on LA soil, and it's a big thing. Well, so apparently Laura Dern is basically imitating makes it sound like I think she's doing a bad job. I think she did a great job in the movie. But apparently
I did see that one.
What?
I did see that one.
Yeah, so apparently her whole shtick, she's imitating a famous Hollywood divorce lawyer. So, this is somebody who has, probably done a bunch of divorces for people who are voting in the Academy Awards. So, and the Oscars love a good imitation. If there's somebody if there's a real person that you are somehow invoking, they love that. And apparently her character is based on like an actual divorce lawyer that has handled all these Hollywood divorces. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, I heard that recently on a different podcast. And when I heard that, I was like, well, all right then.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we have our winner. It's gonna be this one. So anyway, so those are the top 5 categories. I guess I could hold on one second. Let me just go to directing.
So did you do the director one? I don't remember.
No, I didn't do directing. I'll hit the top 6 and then. Okay, so we've got Martin Scorsese, Todd Phillips, Sam Mendes, Quentin Tarantino, and Bong Joon-ho. And for Parasite, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 1917, Joker, and The Irishman. And this one, I think I will go with Joker. I think it's going to go to Todd Phillips for Joker. Because, again, I do maintain that 1917 is going to go to the most, 1917, the most dad movie, is going to get the top prize. But I think with director, it often goes to, somebody who, like Quentin Tarantino, he can be a little controversial. Bong Joon-ho doesn't have as many friends in the business. You know, Martin Scorsese. I mean, everyone loves Martin Scorsese, but again, 3.5 hours. No one's watching it. I think it's going to go to Coppola.
I think he was also given the nomination just for, well, we probably should just give it to him because, you know, he should. It's Martin Scorsese. He always gets nominated. But yeah, I don't think he has a shot to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
that is my theory. Will be really interesting to see what happens, but I think when it comes to trying to pick your Oscar ballot, the thing to do is to think again, like what do old white men want to watch, and to think like what is a very safe answer. Now, obviously, occasionally you have you have like you think La La Land is going to get it, and then they hand it to La La Land, and then you realize that actually it was. Right. Occasionally this happens. I mean, one time it's happened. But most of the time they do not go for movies that have not made buku bucks at the box office. So you want to go with something that has done a lot, that earned a lot of money. You want to go for something where the person who has the person nominated has a lot of buddies. And you want to do it where it's, generally it's like a pretty safe choice. It's not going to be anything super controversial. So anyway, so those are my tips for anyone going to an Oscar party next weekend.
Alrighty. Well, I will be intrigued to find out if you're all correct or incorrect when I read the Oscar winners the following day. Because I'm not interested enough in the Oscars. I'm not one of those people who say, "Oh, I don't like the Oscars; they're boring," but proceed to watch them anyway, just to complain about them. I'm mildly interested in them, but more so for the winners. Me sitting down and watching a 3-hour telecast has no interest in me whatsoever. But I'm curious who wins. Anyway, I'd be curious to see how your predictions line up. Do you want to do a follow-up to this, a reaction to the Oscars, or are you like, nah, I'm good?
Well, let's see how they go. I want to see, if there's interesting things to talk about there.
Okay.
If some of my predictions are wrong, and there's some unusual winners or some very interesting red carpet drama or anything, I'd love to sit down with it. If it ends up being, if all my predictions are correct, I'll sit the next one out.
Fair enough.
I'll sit the follow-up out.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I guess that'll do it. So all you listening at home, hope you have your scorecards, because Jen has never been wrong on any of this. So put your money down now. Call your bookie. So, all right.
Oh, my gosh.
Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Just that, the Oscars are interesting. They are slowly changing, but it was disappointing to see another year of mostly white nominees, and the campaign #Oscars so white is correct, and we need to part of that is we just need to get more younger and more diverse people into the Academy, and I think we will start to see some sea change.
Yeah, I guarantee that'll never happen.
Yeah, but if we did, we would.
Because I'm a cynical.
Perfect. All right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me tonight, Jen, and thanks for those listening, and we will see you next week. You've been listening to the All New CultureCast. We try to post new episodes every Monday evenings 3 to 4 times a month. Check out our backlog. We could be found at allnewculturecast.libsyn.com. You can also find us on Apple iTunes and wherever else podcasts can be downloaded and listened to. This has been the All New CultureCast, a Saltwater production. Original material, copyright 2020. Thanks for listening. It's all Big Pharma trying to run a criminal empire.
Gosh, well, at least I didn't have to pay for the flu shot.